Hello. All right. Hello, and welcome to another week of the History Chats here with the Marathon County Historical Society. We're going to be talking in a moment here with Gary Gisselman about the sort of post-secondary schools here. After we got through all the elementary and the high schools and all of that. Next, we're going to spend this week and next week talking about some of the other stuff here. It's going to be about 10-15 minutes that Gary's going to talk, but we'll have an opportunity for some question and answer afterwards. If you have any questions, do leave them in the comments, and we'll take a look at those and have a chance to have a little discussion afterwards. And with that, I guess now it is time to ask Gary to unmute, and there you go, and hand it over to him.
Thank you very much. Welcome this afternoon. So we begin. This is going to be the story of the normal school here in Marathon County, as well as the story of UW Extension and the history of that block up into today's building, the UW Stevens Point at Wausau. So we begin with the map of Marathon County. You've seen this before. This are all those rural one-room schoolhouses throughout Marathon County. So this is what we had to find teachers to teach those students about. So in the later part of the 1890s, we begin with the story of Andrew Kreutzer of Wausau. He was a lawyer here in Wausau, and in 1898, he was elected to the Wisconsin State Senate. And when he was in the Wisconsin Senate, he introduced a bill which led to the establishment of the county normal school system, or the county training system. And Marathon County very soon began that. So in 1899, Marathon County began its own training school for teachers. It began at the Humboldt School in downtown Wausau with 22 students. So this was resolved that they should be teaching, given instruction in the elementary branches of learning, and to fit teachers for country school work. So this is the beginning of what the teacher training here in Marathon County. Eventually, after a few years, in 1902, Marathon County indeed built this building on Stewart Avenue. We'll talk a little bit about that to begin in a few minutes, but I just want to mention that what was involved with the training of teachers. So in the first quarter, they taught school management, reading, arithmetic. A second quarter, observations and methods, literary reading. Practice teaching came later. Practice and psychology, literature elements. So it was basically a 2-year class that the teachers went through at this training center to be able to go out into the county, into those one-room schoolhouses, and start teaching the young people of Marathon County. Just so you get a little bit of a sense of where this building was, on Stewart Avenue. If you notice the 32 on your left side there, that would be Marathon Park, and then 7th Avenue would be on your right. This is a very famous block in itself today. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But so we have the Marathon County Training School, training teachers 2 years so that they can go out thus into the county and teach in the one-room schoolhouses. The other part of that building was the Marathon County School of Agriculture and Domestic Economy. This was a little bit different because it was formulated a little bit later in 1902 for farmers and for domestic economy, a little bit of a sense of what this was about. The county established this in 1902. And as it appeared, it says this school is the first of its kind to be open in America, and its friends hope for this prosperous and useful future. So it was to train a school system, professional training for a farmer, to teach improved methods of farm management, better conditions of home life, and a variety of things dealing with farm life and agriculture. The coursework for the boys includes agriculture, treating of soils, plants, stock judging, and a variety of things like that. The other course for domestic economy for girls included cooking, laundering, sewing, home management, and decoration. So it again, a 2-year sessions that dealt with these, a variety of things for boys and for girls. This is the typical class then. This is what the normal school looked like. A variety of, they call them boys and girls, but it's really men and women who are now after high school attending this building on Stewart Avenue. So those two functions, the training of teachers and of domestic economy and agriculture, closed in 1943. Again, the war was going on, a heavy demand on the war effort, which led to the county to closing those two classes for teachers, agriculture and domestic economy. This building on Stewart Avenue thus was torn down in 1968. And on Stewart Avenue, pretty close to where this building was this historical marker, the first teacher training school in Wisconsin, here in Marathon County, 1899 to 1943. And it talks a little bit about what we went through, talking a little bit about a variety of different things that were going on in that class, in that building. Turning the tide a little bit, so other things were going on in the county at this time. The University of Wisconsin had an extension office that sent out professors, teachers from Madison to come to a variety of places in Wisconsin. And of course, they came to Marathon County. So in the 1930s, what then was called the University Extension, or the UW Extension, was housed in the Central School, or what we later came to be called Horace Mann. So in the early days, in the 1930s, this was the home of UW Extension. They had a separate hallway, pretty much being for these UW classes. And I know these are sort of bad copies, but it gives you a little bit of a sense of what the University Extension was doing in the 1930s, dealing with economics, a variety of things like that. And again, this was all under the auspices of the vocational school, who had their offices in the Central School, or Horace Mann. So again, another William Cornell to conduct classes in sociology here as part of the UW Extension division at Central School. So a lot of these classes were being held at the Central School. Marshall Graft of the University Extension here, teaching English classes. So a variety of different things, history, a variety of different things being taught here as part of the UW Extension beginning in the 1930s. But then a key person came to Wausau in 1947. Henry Arnsbrock came to Wausau as part of UW Extension. Again, classes held at Central School. But then in let me find that note, 1947, they were, those UW Extension classes were moved from Central School or Horace Mann to the second floor of the normal school. So those classes were now being held on Stewart Avenue. They were being held, as we've seen before, this picture of the normal school. They were being held there. Again, Henry Arnsbrock was here now, and he was starting to develop a little bit more firmer and more permanent situation for the UW Extension classes. Eventually, then in 1958, this what we came to be called North Hall on the campus here on Stewart Avenue was built for UW Extension. So we wonder about that name because that was so long that name became part of that building. But eventually UW Extension moved the University of Wisconsin, in fact, changed these two-year colleges as Marathon County into the UW Centers system. So the management and the governance of this institution started to change into becoming more part of the University of Wisconsin as part of their center system throughout UW centers throughout Wisconsin, a variety of places, Medford, Marshfield, some other closer center system facilities. And in going through the picture, this is the terrace room of that North Hall, and we found a picture of Dave Obey. So I thought that was, he was, I don't know if he was going to class here or not, or this may have been in his legislative years. So this is the campus. This is an aerial view looking west, pretty much as we know it today. But I just want to point out to you a little strange building. Notice that white building that was there for a long time. It was the youth dormitory of the youth, maybe 4-H group. This dormitory was there well into the years that South Hall was there, but eventually that building was torn down, I believe, in 1969. So this is the campus pretty much as we know it today of the UW Stevens Point at Wausau. The new the dorm is being built, the South Hall, the gymnasium, as we know it today. The block, of course, to the east is the theater that was built several years ago. One sidelight to that youth dormitory that was there was also a meeting room on 7th Street. Some of you may, if you're old enough like me, still remember that meeting room. That meeting room where South Hall is currently was moved to inside the Marathon County Park, and it's now the meeting room. So I just found that out the other day that, I was thinking about that meeting room, and I discovered that indeed was moved into Marathon Park. So today we have UW Stevens Point at Wausau, quite a change to how that campus is being run, completely different governance. So that brings that So that's the story of those two buildings, pretty much on that same block, a very famous block, and continues to be a very famous block in the history of the city of Wausau. And I just want to mention next week, we're continuing our chats about post-secondary schools in Wausau, when we're going to be talking about the Wausau Business College and also the beginning of the Wausau Technical Institute, which eventually morphed into the North Central Technical College. So be with us next week, because that's what we'll be talking about next week. Please join us 12:30 next Thursday. Thank you very much. All yours, Ben.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, thanks, Gary. That was a really interesting overview of a much wider system than I think we were used to thinking about, the long history of the post-secondary education, the normal school, and all of that. So a couple things. Again, we're going to have an opportunity here for people. If you have any questions or comments, we can kind of talk about that. Before that, I just want to, as Gary said, next week we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about the schools, in kind of finishing up the education with the technical and business schools. We also have, not this coming weekend, but the weekend following that, if you're interested in these sort of discussions, Brett Barker from the UW system. I guess now I think he's the head of department at the history department at the UW Stevens Point sort of working thing. Anyway, there's a tie in there, but he's going to be coming here and on the same platform where he's going to be talking about a much older history, the history of the Lincoln Douglas debates, 1858, which is certainly an interesting period in political history. If you need maybe a break from the contemporary political stuff, we can kind of delve back into some of the old things. So come in and be sure to tune in. That again, that's October 17th at 2 p.m. That's a Saturday. And we'll have sort of a time to do that. And again, check here for any comments or questions. Otherwise, maybe I'll just throw this out. Gary, you talked about the Marathon County sort of side of things, but there were other normal schools in central Wisconsin, right? Could you talk about the relationship, or how would somebody decide?
There were other normal schools in Wisconsin. There were 5. The difference between Marathon County and, for instance, other normal schools that were earlier than Marathon County was that they were state-governed normal schools. The state, I believe, operated 5 normal teacher training normal schools for teachers. So those were state-organized schools. Marathon County was specifically governed by Marathon County, paid for by Marathon County. And a variety of other counties, of course, established those same types of teacher. That's why they're called more of a teacher training or training institute rather than a normal school. Wisconsin did have, I believe, 5 state-run normal schools. And those, I think, we can associate today with universities, I believe. Platteville, I think, and a variety of other state universities now were at one time state normal schools.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Cool. Wasn't there something about how, because there was one on Stevens Point, obviously. I'm just kind of curious, why would you go, if there are all of these schools, if you're living sort of partway between Stevens Point and Wausau, if you're in the Knowlton area, why would you go to Wausau versus Stevens Point, or that sort of thing? Was there a difference between that besides the who ran it?
Well, which leads me into the larger question of why, with Wausau's normal school and Portage counties, how did Stevens Point get the university and Wausau did not? That story is really not quite clear as yet. One take on it is that Portage County and their normal school requested from the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin the ability to offer a 4-year teaching degree, and that was given to them, and thus they became a 4-year college. And for a long time, they were called what was Central State Teachers College. So they had that teaching mantra for many years, and that's one story. Another story was that WASA sort of didn't want that, but I've never been able to verify that fact. So eventually Stevens Point became a 4-year teacher, 4-year degree. And that's maybe why you would go to Stevens Point rather than to WASA for just a 2-year degree, unless you wanted to teach in a rural country school, which we had,
Certainly had
until
those,
the
yeah.
50s, right?
Cool. Well, it looks like, we nobody's comment. That's quite all right. There's certainly a lot of information to take in, but certainly if you have any thoughts after the fact, feel free to leave them in the comments, or get in touch with us. We have had a couple people reach out and offer suggestions for topics and things, and we much appreciate the feedback from them. So if you have any feedback, feel free to let us know, and we're still kind of figuring out what the next couple months might look like for what we're doing with this. So there's certainly room for we'd love to have any feedback and suggestions. Otherwise, we have enough stuff to talk about. We can certainly tell some fun stories. But anyway, thanks for those people that have. And I think we'll maybe leave it there. And thanks again, Gary, for your expertise and presenting this. And thanks to you for watching.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you
next
very
week.
much. See you next week.